as a practitioner of martial arts, early in your career, you decide to start creating that fighter artwork. You post it on social. Vice gets to you. You start to produce artwork for their Fightland series. Talk to me about when you grabbed the UFC's attention.
Yeah.
What was that first interaction of being commissioned to work with the UFC?
Well, so UFC reached out to me, but I feel like I was reaching out to the UFC through all the projects that I
Yeah,
did leading up to it.
that was
So
your resume.
yeah, yeah. So by the time UFC hit me up, I pretty much done everything possible that every other UFC related project possible. Like
Yeah,
I had done artwork for years for Reebok, which was the official and the only clothing sponsor of the UFC for
yeah,
years.
yeah.
So I was doing like I did Francis Ngannou's first walkout shirt. I did Izzy shirt. Like we were doing apparel. I was doing live painting at UFC events in the Reebok. Um, and,
Interesting. So you would
and
consider that a Reebok project that lets you work on some UFC related items, but it wasn't a direct commission from the UFC.
yeah, yeah, it was all Reebok. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I
Interesting.
get
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
You could say it's Reebok. You could say it's UFC because it is for the UFC. But if you're asking like when somebody with a UFC email
Yeah.
hit me up,
Badge. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. So I did tons of stuff for Reebok. I mean, I did some. Those are fun days because that was also when I was starting out being like a professional artist. I feel like Reebok gave me my first like kind of really big, global brand. Um, they were my first like global client kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and they took me out we had some awesome adventures. Like UFC used to do this thing called the athletes retreat where they would fly out the whole roster for like a weekend in Vegas, and they'd have like seminars. Like the weekend when I was there was Kobe was there giving us a seminar about like business, and
I
the
think I've heard of these. Yeah. They don't do these anymore, right?
Shark Tank was there the weekend.
Yeah.
So, like Reebok was a sponsor, so they just had like one time they just had me out there painting as like entertainment. Like I did like two big MMA paintings,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
was in the middle painting. And I was like the only guy there that was not a fighter. That's not a UFC fighter. Um, and one time I was painting at the Reebok tent. They would have like a merch tent outside of the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, and it was during fight week. International Fight Week,
Yep.
and it was like that's July Vegas. It was like 115 something like that, and my paint was like coagulating because we were outside. And I was just like, I was like, but they were like, nobody's coming to this thing, because it was like maybe 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. and like the fights didn't start till like 8, so they're like, nobody's coming. That's too hot. So
Yeah. Did
oh,
they let you just close it down early?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
we had a lot of these things. Like I went to yeah, we had a lot of these things. One time I was like painting at a Reebok store, and I was painting, and when Ngannou was new, and he was like
Okay.
signing stuff, and I was just like painting right next to him. Stuff like
Got
that.
it.
So
Got it.
we had a lot of cool things with Reebok, and so that was so I did Vice, right? So I did MMA
Yeah.
editorial stuff with Vice. I did apparel and live painting stuff, all kinds of stuff with Reebok. I did Conor McGregor artwork, key art for the UFC 4 video game. They
Wow.
did like they made it into ads, and
Okay.
it was not for the actual, not in the game, but it was like for the game. I did,
Fight posters.
yeah, 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 posters. Yeah, basically like everything that had to do with the UFC. And then I got hit up by the UFC apparel, so I did like a line of artwork for UFC apparel. Then it started building up in the UFC. Then I did artist series poster. I did a couple of those. And then I did um, the bigger artist series poster for me, which I made as a large scale painting. They commissioned as a large scale painting that we gave to Izzy.
Yep.
And then it all like kind of led up to like the 300 mural, and it was just like, so when I got that, I was like, I'm ready. I was like,
Yeah, you're ready. Yeah, you knew,
I was
you
like,
almost kind of had the expectation already.
yeah, I was like, I've been preparing for this. I was like, I'm the guy for this. I was like, you guys
I
want
love it.
300 mil? I was like, I'm ready. Yeah.
So I'm gonna table the 300 for now. I do want to get into it, excluding that project and thinking about all the other UFC stuff, whether it's the Reebok collaborations, the video game, the fight posters. Um, any fun, memorable moments that you can think of that like are just some that nobody's ever asked you about and they always stick out. You know.
Nobody's ever asked me about. Man,
I'm talking even like I didn't think this one, or like this one was so close on deadline that I needed to, get 50% of it done in the last day or whatever it is that really sticks out to you when you think of those moments.
oh well, I mean, one thing that just happened so was my last artist series poster before the UFC 300 was for the MSG card last year, and this was to be
Mm.
Bones Stipe.
Stipe, yeah.
Yeah, so I did the painting. Um, they loved it, and then me and my wife went on vacation to Italy. We're like, yeah, we did it, we're done. And then like a week before the fight, Bones tears his pec or whatever, and they were like,
Hmm.
I was in Italy, and they emailed me. They're like, is there any way we can make a change? And I was like, by this time, and it was just like I was like, I can, I get back this day. I I can get back, paint new faces, and have everything else be the same, and then just like Photoshop it together. And yeah, if you guys are cool with that, then I can make that happen. So that's what happened. I came back. I painted a Yuri. I painted Alex or Alex.
Wow.
I just photoshopped it. I was like, I was like, boom, there it is.
That's fascinating. That is a big story, right? Like nobody would know that because we appreciated the artwork, right? Where us fans don't know that. We're just gonna take it and be like, that's a dope piece. But you
And
know that history behind it.
you know what? That happened to me also, but on a smaller scale with Vice, UFC 200. So
With
after
Jones
so,
and
yeah, with
DC, right?
Bones, yeah, same thing. So for that one, I had already been doing a couple things I've been doing it for a while, and for this one, we were like, oh, why don't we do 3 illustrations? I wanted to do a 200, like a big two with two fighters in it, because it was 3 main matchups, right? It was the headliners at the time were Bones, Cormier, uh, Mark
It's
Hunt,
like
Brock Lesnar,
Brock
and
Lesnar.
Keisha Tate, and Amanda Nunes. So I was gonna do Bones and Cormier inside the two, and then the other guys in the zero and the zero. So I did all these 3 paintings, and then like Bones pops, and I'm like I can't. And at that time I did run out of time. Like I couldn't just make a new one with. I think it was Anderson, but I
Yeah.
think that one was literally. I think Anderson jumped in like with 2 days
Yeah,
notice.
that was
Like
super short notice.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was like, I can't. I literally can't do that. I can't. So
Yeah. That's always tough though. Is it hard to say no? Because you almost like, you're like, this is the company that I want to do as much work as I can for.
yeah. Well, no. Well, for that one, it was for Vice, and yeah, I mean, I would have. I probably would have tried to do it if, I still had an advertising job back then, so
Okay.
I had to be a little. So that was also another lucky gig to have because um, it was almost like whenever I could do it, then they'd be like, cool, and
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and like I said, there was no real concept. It wasn't like we need a specific illustration that talks about this story that just happened.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like I would just do a painting of like a badass painting of Bones, and we're like, and then they'd have an article for John Jones, for his next fight. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
Sonable, if I'm pronouncing that right, is it
yeah,
Sonable? Yeah,
yeah.
an MMA apparel and equipment company. You've also done some fantastic work for them. For the likes of Max, which is this piece right here, right? That's that artwork is sick. I was happy to get one of those. I also saw in going down that rabbit hole that you did some work for Sugar. So speaking on Sugar, that's another athlete that you got to meet as well. Him along with Izzy. So tell me maybe about any behind the scene memories that you shared about those moments. Some of these I imagine might have, went by so quick, but if there's anything you can share about those, that'd be cool.
He's chill, dude. He's like so I experienced this in the like 15 minutes that I met him, but he was just like totally just like a regular dude, like we were in this hotel room, and you know what? Um, so I went up to Boston. That was for his last his title fight against Aldro.
Yeah.
And when I met him in the hotel room, he was just like totally laid back, and you could understand because it's cutting week,
Hmm.
so he's probably like a little bit chill. And his hair wasn't all hooked up yet. And then when we came back for the fight, it's like he's a totally different person. He's like a superhero because first of all, it's like totally and then he has the pink shorts and everything, or maybe he didn't have. He had the green shorts then, but it was almost like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, whatever, Bruce Banner Hulk thing. It
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
he like totally, and especially when he landed the cab, you're like, wow, this is like the dude that we were just hanging out in the hotel room like a couple days ago. Um, so yeah, he was really cool, and also my contact at Sandoval, Imran, who works with Sean a lot, is like he's totally like like a regular like chill dude, day to day, and then the Sugar Show was like a different side of him.
that's his other side. Yeah, yeah, got it. Yeah, and I know they do quite a bit of Sean and his coach do quite a bit of promotion for like their products and whatnot. So I know they've probably been working for a while now.
Yeah, totally. And you know what? On the flip side, when I met Izzy, Izzy's like that guy. He's like a star, like
Just the
you can
entire
tell.
time.
Yeah, I mean, like he's like so charismatic. Like you can tell, like, oh, this guy's a star. Like even when he came in, he met me. He's like, oh my guy, just like he knew exactly what to say,
Yeah,
make you feel cool. You feel cool being around him. Not that Sean didn't, but that's kind of like how Izzy is.
yeah.
He portrays himself, but that's kind of how he is. In real life too. Just chill, like awesome, like high energy. Just really cool, like a real cool star guy.
Yeah. Have you blessed him with a follow back on Instagram, or are you gonna
Yeah,
make
no,
him
of
work for
course.
that?
Oh, yeah, right, of course. Yeah, no. Actually, we had been IG friends before he got into UFC. Actually,
Interesting. So he was a fan of your work.
yeah. I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say, right? He liked what you were putting out there, so he wanted to follow it.
Yeah. We're mutual fans, I guess.
Yeah, I have a fun story about Izzy that happened maybe like 3 weeks ago. So I'm telling a client of ours about this channel. It randomly came up, right? I was like, oh well, yeah. I go, oh, it was around 300 because I said this entire weekend I'm basically muting everybody and I'm just gonna sit down for 8 hours and watch this big monumental UFC 300 card. She goes, oh, it's funny. She's like, I used to be roommates with Izzy. And I was
Whoa.
just like, that's like the randomest thing because if you look at her, you would never ever think that, right? And so
Okay.
it turns out that she was dating one of Izzy's close friends that during the pandemic they all had to room together when everything was locked down. And so she got to know him over the course of like 6 months and is on a text basis with him. And she's like, yeah, like I texted with him like 2 weeks ago. She's like,
Oh,
I can introduce you if you want. I was like, I'm definitely take you up on that. I go when the time is right. I was like, but that's just such a random, like story
yeah.
to stumble upon. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's funny when you say he's like on text, but like the other thing with Izzy is like, even like I said, we were IG friends before he was in the UFC. Even
Yeah.
as he's gotten bigger and bigger, like I'll post like a random painting, and then it's like liked by Izzy by Stylebender. Really cool, like just
You're
he's like
like,
still on IG doing stuff,
he's
or
still
that's
on
like
there.
that's what I think. I don't know. Maybe it's
Yeah.
somebody. You're just like, oh, cool.
That's dope. It goes a long way though. That's really cool. All right, so now I want to jump into a monumental moment for us fans, specifically one for you as an artist, right? How did you feel to have your artwork showcased throughout UFC 300? They did a video piece on it too, which I thought was really really well edited.
Yeah.
So tell me what that feeling was, and also that initial phone call. Was it an email, right? That experience.
Yeah, so it was email, and like everything with the UFC, it's fast, and it's
I
good
was
because I'm used
watching
to it. But
it.
especially with the UFC, it's fast because especially their stuff's always changing, and they
Mhm.
have a card every. So like out of all the like kind of big corporations, they got to move fast, and so it was kind of like I had a lot of pressure time wise, but I feel like because I was moving so fast, I didn't have too much time to overthink everything. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, they hit me up for the mural. The main idea was they wanted it as the intro to their countdown episode. So when they're talking about all the different fighters, they're talking about the belts. It's all in this one mural that they can kind of point to, and then when they have the reveal of the intro, it's like all of it's in one. Like
Mhm.
UFC 300, like with a mural. So I wanted this composition to be kind of like an explosion of all that. Like, it's not just like this guy versus this guy and this guy. It's just like an explode. Like all these guys are
Yeah.
there. Um, so I mean, yeah, it was like a dream project. Like, and what was so weird was it probably was the project that went the smoothest out of like all the big
Okay.
projects I've ever had. Like, especially a mural project. So um, first of all, the timing was so fast. Like it was like they hit me up. I presented sketches like a day or two later. Revision, boom,
But what
and
is
then
so? How much time did you have? So UFC 300, right? It's gonna happen on a Saturday. Do you have a month ahead? Is it? Is
well,
it like how? What was the timeline?
so it was a little bit faster than like the other stuff because I mean a little bit more time because usually when I do like the artist series posters and stuff, the delivery date, they'll hit me up maybe 3 weeks before the fight because they're
Okay.
still trying to get stuff together, and then I have to be like, depending on what I'm working on, I have to be like, okay, I gotta work, do sketches,
Yeah.
boom, and you deliver it like a week and a half or something before. But this one, they wanted because it was for the countdown.
Mm-hmm.
The countdown aired 2 weeks before 300, so they needed it, like at least a week before that. So yeah, I had this done about a month before 300.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing. Like like that bones thing. I had like they wanted 6 guys on the mural. I was like, oh my god. I was like,
Here we go again.
I hope nobody stubs their toes. But yeah, so everything went perfect. It was just like amazing. Like um, so everything got approved quickly. One thing that's pretty awesome working with the UFC is I feel like they don't have like a giant chain of like approvals. Um, like I got hired to do a mural, a Nike mural at a Jordan store in China,
Mm-hmm.
and I was every round of sketches had to go through um, the design studio, and then Nike China's advertising agency that had to go to like Nike China that had to go to Nike
There was a lot
Portland,
of chains
and
of
then get
approval
approved
that
by
you.
Jordan.
Oh,
So it was
jeez.
just like tons and tons. But this one was like the guy that at the UFC that was like producing the videos, like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
approved, approved. It's fast. So it happened so fast, and then um, I felt like I was like kind of like living this UFC video game. Like I was out in Vegas. We were at the warehouse. They let me work out at the PI. In the mornings. I was just like like doing like flat pulls and stuff. Just like at the I was like eating, like lunchtime. I'm at the cafeteria. There's like Whaley. I'm like, whoa.
That's what I was about to say. You're probably running into the athletes there. Yeah.
Just like painting in the warehouse. And then, so one thing was this was the quickest mural timeline I've ever had. So usually murals always, like 5 or 6 days,
Mm-hmm.
like, and that's taking a long time, especially for a mural. Like,
Okay.
especially guys that are like all spray and have different, maybe less figurative styles. They'll bomb it in like an hour to like a day or
Yeah.
2 days.
Yeah.
I already take kind of a long time, but because they had a whole film crew and like equipment and stuff, they were like, "Can you get it done in 4 days?" And this was the most portraits I've done in one mural too, 6 portraits. And those always take a long time because that's kind of the hardest thing, right? Like a likeness that I want to create in my style that has the energy, has the texture, has the grittiness, but it's got to kind of look like them. So that's the
Correct.
hardest thing. It's not like like a character, a made up character where there's some room for. So, anyways, I think because of that, I made a super tight sketch. Like I made sure like I solved all the problems on my sketch, and then the other advantage was we work in a warehouse, so I always project the murals.
Yeah,
But
onto it.
yeah, but on the street, like sometimes it's just you can just get the line. You got to work fast because yeah, when you're on the street, you got to work at night. That you don't know who's there. You're putting the projector like across the street. People walking, so
Okay.
you're just going fast. But because this was in the UFC warehouse, we were like, okay, I solved all the problems that like the lighting things and all the issues that I wanted on this sketch. I like did all the prep, so we were able to just like turn it on and just like really get it tight. Like way tighter than I ever had. So it was almost like I got as much from the sketch as as I ever had been able to translate onto the wall,
Yeah.
and it just went like I said perfectly. It was just like we were in a closed off environment. There's no people walking around. So we're just painting. The one thing was it was like a little bit pressure because there's like a full film crew. Like the embedded guy. Like I mean, the countdown guys just like a crane that
Yeah.
every time they're like, can we do the 300 and you paint it and walk away?
Yeah.
There's some like sleeping I had to do and stuff like that. But besides that, it's just like I was surprised how fast and efficient everything went. Um, Something always goes wrong, something always
Yeah.
goes wrong, especially murals. Like it rains one day, or we forgot this kind of paint, the lift doesn't work or something like that. But just everything went perfect, and then
Yeah.
nobody got injured. It was just like
That's the big one that you have no control about at all, or even the UFC, right? It's like,
yeah. So um,
th-
yeah, and UFC loved it, and yeah, it was perfect. And then even
is that a piece? And I'll let you finish that. Is that a piece that you feel 100% okay with? Like, even
yeah,
though it
oh
was
yeah,
rushed?
that was the
Yeah.
other thing. I was like by the day 3, I was like, I like it. I was like, it's
I
good.
like it.
Right. Yeah, you're like, I did it because yeah, like a lot of times, like I kind of like have a little terror of stepping away from the wall at the end of the day because I'm like, okay, when I step back, I've been working all day on this. Am I gonna hate it or not? And I was like, yeah, cool. And I even had a couple. I had enough time to do a couple rounds of like my Photoshop revisions, like I was talking about. Like I take a picture, I put it in Photoshop, and then so I can look at it, like really small and be like, oh, I need to change this and that. Um, and then even with a couple cycles of that, I was like, yeah, I was like, we did it. So
That's so
yeah,
awesome.
like that's the other thing. I was like happy with it, and even how they used it was so cool. Like so now it's gonna be like it's at the Apex Center, the mural, and then they used it as like on all the new screens for like the lead up show, with
Okay.
like DC and Laura Senko and Weidman and all those guys, and then they use it on the weigh-ins. They had it like as a big, I think projection, or maybe it was like on a screen above the weigh-ins.
I think it was on the screen. Yeah, yeah.
As the screen, and then they had it backstage. So like everybody, there's all these like Getty images, or from the UFC photographer of all the like stars like pose. It's like kind of
That's
like
dope.
when they have the like film premieres and they have that like
Hmm.
it's kind of like they use it for that too. They're just awesome. It's just like yeah, I mean
Yeah,
like
kudos to the UFC team, right, for having knowing what works. I think they've done this enough times where you were surprised to walk into a situation where they had a warehouse for you that takes a lot of like your concerns of doing murals in the street away. They're professional about it, so they're like letting you kind of flow with what you need to. I bet the crew was there and they were interrupting here and there, but it was more minimal and to the process than not. Um,
yeah.
and it's really good that they're also putting it now somewhere. They have it. It's going to be a monumental piece that they have. Did all the fighters sign it? Is that like something that they went for as well, or does that take away from it? Would you kind of be hurt if it has
No,
any signatures?
no, I don't think they signed it. But also, it's like a 30-foot mural, so I feel like they'd have to sign really big for you to be able to see it. Um, but no, I don't think the fighters signed it. Yeah.
Got it, got it. And I've heard that I think it's called like you design the lighting by doing your own references, and so you're like, you have your wife taking pictures of you,
Yeah,
doing karate angles and whatnot. Did you do some of that for this?
always all the
Always. It's always
every,
okay.
yeah, every body reference. I mean, I had some here where there was just portraits, like the Behera shouting and stuff like that. But still, I always shoot, yeah, for everything.
Interesting. Tell
Because
folks about that. Tell folks about what that is.
oh yeah, so this is actually from George Pratt too, because like one thing, especially if you're trying to create a representational painting, like figurative, not this is like excluding like cartooning and stuff where it's like very stylized. But if you're trying to have like a certain level of realism, um, something figurative, um, George Pratt was like, you got to design your own references because like there's a lot of information that you can design based on the way that you light a reference. So like for example, like I was saying with the 20-minute gestural drawings and stuff like that.
Mm.
When a figure is lit and there's like like nice shadows, very defined shadows, like it's easier to paint because those shadows define more of the figure
Mhm.
as opposed to like you right now in your even lighting. There's very little shadows, so you have to do a lot of line work. There's not, but
Yeah.
um,
All. Yeah.
yeah, in a lot of my artwork, I try to have like really dramatic lighting. Not only is it more descriptive, there's more of an impact. Like and what I mean with dramatic lighting is like it's usually like from above or somewhere where there's like strong shadows on one side, and then there's like there's a clear lights and darks. And then when you shoot your own references, you can also design the lights and darks on the page because that's kind of what makes up a composition. The How the lights and darks play around the page.
Yeah.
That kind of creates the pattern. Um, so when I'm shooting the references, um, so my process is I come up with the sketches small, like by myself, like kind of like out of my head, right?
Yeah.
And then when I have like basic shapes, like oh this kind of angle versus this that kind of angle, then I'll shoot my own references to kind of define the lights and the darks, and that kind of
Yeah.
takes it to the next level of specificity, you know. Um, so yeah, so I do that for every painting I do, and especially and what else? What else? Also, what I found, doing MMA artwork is like, uh, it's just messy in the ring. Like very rarely do you get like a perfect kind of punch angle or a
Correct.
perfect kick angle. It's always like because they're really fighting. Like they're getting punched while they're kicking.
Correct.
It's like a weird angle. So it's like to really get the kind of dramatic angle or a certain kind of composition that I want, you got to design it, and then I find, of course, face references to match.
Yep. Yep. So somewhere in your photo reel, I have a picture of you like this, right?
Oh yeah, oh my god, if you look through my iPhone, it's just a picture of me and my wife, like usually in our underwear. Yeah, I got this one. I got yeah, all of them.
That's you have the chama as well.
Not yet, but yeah, this
Oh,
is
we
I,
got
I have that in my
spoiler.
yeah, yeah.